Well, look who we have joining us here on City News Today. Mike Eppel, hello.
Hello. How are you, Francis?
Good. You know it's p.m., not 5:25 a.m., right?
I know. I just wanted to find out what it was like to not get up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, did you?
So, look, no bags under my eyes. Isn't that amazing?
No kidding. Looks great. and the great thing is, because you're here during the day, you've got a lot of time to look at the stock market.
Exactly.
How did the TSX do this week?
Well, you know what? Over the past few days, it's been down a little bit. But overall, because the market had hit a record high back early Wednesday morning, it was up quite substantially at that point. It's cooled off a little bit since over the past couple of days at least. But it was up by 0.5% for the week. Doesn't sound like anything substantial. However, that's the 9th consecutive week in a row that the TSX has actually posted an overall gain over 5 days. So you have to go back to 1996, the last time that has happened. And on Wall Street, well, the numbers there today showed that investors were, again, kind of losing patience with the Trump administration and the various levels of government, because the Senate this week put forward its own plan for tax reform that did not include a corporate tax cut, at least not immediately. And that has been something the market has really been banking on, that corporate taxes are going to go down substantially, and not tomorrow, but yesterday, basically. So, you know, if the Trump administration doesn't get this passed by Thanksgiving or the end of the year, that's going to be a disappointment. Markets on Wall Street up substantially so far this year, but could be cooling off, at least in the short term.
So, you know, all the cities are coming after the federal government, wanting a piece of the marijuana pie. Today we had some new details about how much tax we'll be paying. Yeah,
this $1 per gram excise tax is what the Trudeau government is proposing. Now, what's interesting about that, though, Francis, is the fact that there's going to be HST on top of that. So it's basically a tax on a tax. So it's $8 per gram plus $1 excise tax, and then you add the HST, then you're looking at $10.17. So it's kind of interesting how they accumulate the tax revenue from this. It apparently is close to black market prices, shall we say?
I wouldn't know, because to be honest.
Well, exactly.
But,
I spoke to so-called experts about that today, air quotes, and that's something they really want to avoid. That this, you know, because that's what's happened with tobacco. Let's face it. You know, the taxation rate on tobacco is sky high per carton. The black market rate is much lower, and that has this disjointed marketplace. The big question is who's going to get the revenue. This is all up for negotiation, and that's going to be interesting to see how it's broken down between the provinces and the federal government. The pot stocks on Bay Street today, high flyers, pardon the pun. Aurora Cannabis hit a record, Canopy Growth close to a record, and they were the most actively traded as well at the TSX. You know, it used to be about banks and mining companies. Now it's about marijuana producers.
Sure is. So, you know, we're all waiting for those Black Friday sales here in North America, but today is the biggest shopping day of the year in China.
And worldwide, actually, when you look at the numbers that Alibaba Group does with Singles Day, $24 billion in an estimated sales amount. You know, they were doing 286,000 transactions per second on the Alibaba website today. This started in 2009. It's been growing ever since. They got big discounts on things like iPhones and refrigerators and appliances and everything, pretty much. Nike's a big seller on this. All of the big retail brands out of the U.S. sell into China through this, and it's a global phenomenon that sees a massive amount of business. And, of course, all the Black Friday sales are already being listed out of the U.S. retailers as well.
So you mentioned the iPhone for sale on there, but it turns out that new iPhone, the iPhone 10, maybe doesn't like the cold weather.
A nice day to test it. Apparently it freezes up a little bit.
Does it?
A little bit, yeah. So iPhone discovered this because Reddit users were saying, my iPhone 10's frozen, and it's not just because it's cold. So they're putting out a software patch. Didn't do anything to the stock price today. It was down a little bit. Couldn't quite hold $900 billion in market cap where it hit earlier this week.
You know, with the phone over $1,000, it's you got to work in the cold too. So Disney is revealing, I guess, details about their upcoming streaming service, and apparently it's going to be cheaper than Netflix.
That's what Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, is saying, and they're not saying exactly the pricing. He's just saying it's going to be cheaper than what Netflix is on a monthly basis. This is going to come down to content when you consider Disney's got Star Wars and the Marvel franchise and all this. If they keep that away from Netflix, and they're already starting to do that, that's a major competitor for Netflix going forward. Disney's also putting another $1 billion into its theme parks. They made that announcement on the earnings call yesterday, and that had Disney stock today up 2%. Netflix, lo and behold, was down close to 2%.
You know, this week we've been talking a lot about Bitcoin fraud on City News, and the value of the digital currency has taken a hit.
And if you can figure out Bitcoin and how it actually works, well,
and
you're
why?
one up on me.
How about the why?
Well, you know what? It's when you read about it, sometimes the language is basically hieroglyphics, and that right there, you know, and you wonder about the percentage of people in the population who are actually using Bitcoin. It hit $7,800 a couple of days ago. They were going to split it, and then the operators of the Bitcoin channels, the so-called miners, couldn't figure out how to do it. The investors lost some confidence. It dropped $1,000 in 48 hours, closed today just below $6,500 US per Bitcoin. Again, it was at $7,800 midweek.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Is this a one-time deal with you here?
Oh, you never know. I might pop in
again?
once in a while.
You're always welcome.
Yeah, I like talking to you.
Although we do like Richard.
I know.
But
I know. See,
he's a good kid.
Indeed he is.
All right. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Okay. Take care. Here's Stella.